Okay, well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to be here. Though our presentations are not related, my Canadian colleague Christine McNair did a wonderful job of introducing the synthetic papers. So I'm just going to dive right in. I'm going to dive into one synthetic paper called stone paper. So what is stone paper? Let's see if this works. Okay, great. Stone paper is a type of synthetic paper that goes by many different names. There is little unifying classification or standardization for the terminology of synthetic papers, making definitions extremely imprecise. Modern stone papers were developed in the 1990s and are a paper-like material made of minerals, mostly calcium carbonate and plastic resins. Stone paper appears to have gained popularity partly by being marketed with a high environmental sustainability focus, claiming a low carbon footprint, treeless and waterless production, recyclability, and even biodegradability. Nice. Stone paper is available in sheets, reels, and finished printed products such as notepads and other stationery items. TerraSkin is a brand of stone paper that is used in many of the same applications as cellulose-based papers and claims to be resistant against water, grease, mold, and tearing, and is also acid-free. I focus on TerraSkin since there is limited stock for research now that it's been discontinued. There is a thin and thick-weighted version of TerraSkin. According to the manufacturer, the composition is approximately 80% mineral and 20% high-density polyethylene to act as a binder. The thick-weighted sheet was analyzed with infrared spectroscopy at Queen's University, and the results found an undeniably large amount of calcium carbonate. Polyethylene was confirmed, but various densities may be present within a given sheet. IR also revealed polystyrene, a thermoplastic commonly used to make styrofoam, which appears to be a component of the coating on both sides. The presence of talc and other unidentified materials are likely components of the stone used in manufacturing. TerraSkin is very pliable, but creases and dents easily. Pictured here are new thick and thin sheets that came from an art supplier not far from our studio. The creasing and indenting is pretty obvious for new sheets. Both sides of the thick sheet are opaque white and can have distinct manufacturing lines, which can be seen in different lighting conditions. So you can see these lines here, and here, and here. The sheet has a very smooth surface with little texture or tooth, and it feels like a thin Bristol board. Both sides of the thin sheet are opaque white, but without the presence of the manufacturing lines. The surface texture is similar to that of an eggshell, which provides more tooth to the surface than the thick sheet. Another sheet of TerraSkin was provided to us by an artist, which had the texture of the thin TerraSkin, the weight of the thick TerraSkin, and then the addition, the addition of these unique diagonal manufacturing lines. Okay, so it's possible the artist just misidentified the brand, or it is possible that TerraSkin produced variations of the sheet that will just make identification more complicated for us. There are no optical brighteners in TerraSkin, no watermarks, embossings, or any other markers of brand identification. Despite the marketing, sheets tear with relative ease, I think. There's no obvious grain direction to either the thick or the thin sheets, and they also tear a lot more easily as they age and become more brittle. A scalpel was used to scratch the surface of the thick sheet. Aside from the polystyrene, the proprietary components remain a mystery for now and are likely applied to improve the surface for accepting inks and various media. The sheets are meant to be grease resistant, but they do absorb oils which cause fingerprints to fluoresce under UV. And until we know more about how these will age over time, I just say gloves are recommended when handling. As a short-term aging study, thick and thin samples were placed in a south-facing window for 6 months. Both samples slightly yellowed and warped, but the most significant difference was noticeable under UV examination, where the samples changed a great deal from their comparison control sheet. Conservators should consider TerraSkin to have a sensitivity to light, like color photographs, and a high sensitivity to UV, as with newsprint, though we don't see the same kind of yellow discoloration as you do with newsprint. TerraSkin is produced through an extrusion process where the polymer is blown into a tubular film form that's then collapsed and flattened. Some other stone papers are produced through a biaxial stretching of the film, so when exposed to heat, biaxial-oriented films may shrink. Just think of shrink wrap. Oh, oops, sorry. Because of the blown extrusion process, TerraSkin is dimensionally stable under elevated temperatures, though the thick and thin sheets become noticeably softer when placed on a hot table. I took the painting's hot table for that. Traditional processes for reducing planar deformations in paper using humidification and dry pressing are not effective on these sheets. Tight creases tend to form, and it's a lot like tracing paper. The creased sheets shown in the previous slide were placed on a hot table and rolled with pressure, but the tight creases remained. I've had some success treating minor deformations with localized heat applied over a sheet of silicone mylar, since direct contact with a warm spatula seems to alter the surface texture and sheen. But heat accelerates the degradation of plastics, so we'll have to see how some of these methods hold up long term. So spot testing with distilled water, isopropyl alcohol, ethanol, acetone, and VMP naphtha all impacted the sheet to a greater or lesser extent. Many solvents were undetected in ambient lighting conditions, but all were noticeable under UV examination in the form of tide lines, which is this top bar right here. That's just spot testing. Forcibly swabbing with solvents appears particularly detrimental and may even be dissolving the surface coating, which is this bottom row right here. Acetone and VMP appear particularly aggressive. VMP was the only solvent that caused noticeable deformations in this sheet. 4 common hinges were tested: wheat starch paste, heat-activated BIVA, and Abaca pressure-sensitive tape. All of these tests provided good adhesion, but of course, heat, moisture, or solvents that are required to remove these impact the surface of the TerraSkin. And just to note, that heat-set tissue off on the side there was the only test that failed over time with handling because of poor adhesion. Abaca, over here, is a pressure-sensitive tape used by framers for hinging photographic prints and appears to contain optical brighteners, so it will be interesting to see if these chemicals impact the sheet over time, since plastics can absorb issues from contact materials. Even at a low concentration, the wheat starch paste caused severe deformations, and even more so in the thin sheet, as you can see on the left. And here are those hinging samples from the reverse. Oh, sorry. Right here. So it's not surprising that traditional paper conservation techniques do not perform well on TerraSkin, since it's technically not paper. The use of heat and solvents present peril to the sheet, and contact materials demonstrate their own unique set of issues. But none of this is as concerning as the claims of sustainability. TerraSkin claims the product has a short degradation life cycle and will degrade back to its source material of mineral powder and pellets of plastic when left in nature. Other companies still manufacturing stone paper make similar claims with respect to the natural degradation of their materials, and the obvious concern here is microplastics being left in the environment. TerraSkin also claims the material is infinitely recyclable, but this is only possible through a closed-loop system. Some companies currently in operation are now inviting consumers to return their materials for recycling at their own expense, all the while reiterating that sheets can be recycled in local paper and plastic programs. I'm sure at this point I don't need to explain why this is utterly confusing. Of the Canadian and German institutions contacted, all confirmed that stone paper cannot be recycled as paper or plastic. This leaves us with concerns about the material's deterioration in nature and confusion around end-of-life advertising. I have yet to find anyone on a municipal level that will commit to accepting this material for recycling, so if anyone has heard of any, I would really love to hear from you. If we reflect on the history of paper making, from fibers and water to fillers and brighteners, it's not surprising the day has come for us to consider plastic as a compositional element. At ATRFTIR, we have received numerous inquiries regarding stone paper, so it's safe to say this could very well land on your bench if it hasn't already, and I hope that this presentation might give you some tools to confront this new challenge. Thanks.